Slinging seeds, sliding on into home, throwing heat, buddy, we're going, gone. If you gotta go down, you gotta go down, swinging, slinging seeds. It's America's favorite pastime. Come on, let's have a good time, slinging seeds. Yeah, we're just slinging seeds.
Hey everybody, welcome to another week of Slinging Seeds. This week we have a very special episode, as from episode 1 is our special guest host, Juan Espinoza. And our special guest today is my good buddy, Doug Adams. Doug is a Miamisburg native. I've been in the Miamisburg area for quite a while sometime. I've been coaching for about 20 plus years, you'd say.
Yep.
Was the original Canes organization is you founded. And then now with P413 Baseball and the head coach at Dayton Christian.
Yep.
How we doing today, Doug?
Good, good. This is a different side. I'm used to being over there, but
musical chairs.
Musical chairs today.
chairs.
But no, it's cool. I mean, you guys think that the story that we have from the last 20 years needs to be told? I'm here to tell it.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. Should
Absolutely.
have been done sooner.
Juan, what do you think about being in the host chair as our special guest host today?
We'll see. I'm a little nervous. I think
Little
hopefully I can keep up with what you guys have done. You guys have done a great job with the pod so far. So just trying to keep that momentum going for you guys.
Well, we appreciate that. I wanted to start off with kind of a fireball question here. Doug, tell us your relationship with baseball, how it came about, why you love baseball, why we're here today in this building, really.
Goes back a long way. So when I grew up, my dad's a football guy. He coached football at Northmont, and he loved it. So when I was a kid, I mean, I'm talking kindergarten. I remember I ended up playing Pee Wee at 4. Somehow he got me in. I would do my homework and we'd work on football, but all I ever wanted to do was be on the baseball field. Right? So I played some football. Played Pee Wee at Northmont. So I did that until my parents separated, and when I was in the 5th grade, when my dad had some problems. And then it became all baseball all the time. I loved it.
So middle school?
Right about 5th grade.
Okay.
5th grade, yeah. So that's when I really, because back then it was literally, this is how old fashioned it was, Inglewood Little League, right? Where you played Little League back then and stuff. So they had a tryout. So it was 10 to 12-year-olds were together for the 12U, right? And then they would have a tryout where coaches would come out and you would have like an elite rec and then like the AAA, and then they called it AA, and they would have 3 divisions because everybody played in the league back then, right? Select didn't start till you were 13. So we went through that, and I ended up making the 12U team as a 10-year-old. I was a pitcher, a third baseman. Went through that, fell in love with the game. I was not the best player in the world. I threw kind of hard, had a good arm. Didn't really have anybody that was teaching me to play the game, right? I didn't have that guy. So went through all that, and I just fell in love with the game. And, I've always made the joke that, I love 3 things in my life, God, family, and baseball. The problem is when the season starts, I mess the order up a little.
Right.
For sure.
Absolutely. So getting into that, as you were going through high school and baseball persisted, how did it end for you, and where did you revisit it at?
Yeah, so I always loved the game. I played for a coach named Tony Nicely, who played in the Pirate system, got drafted by the Pirates, and he taught me a lot about the game. Played for another coach, Bob McCullough, who was a great guy. And then Chuck Hobbs. Chuck Hobbs was my coach for 2 years in high school. Chuck was kind of rough around the edges, but he meant really, really well. He really cared about his players. And so he gave me good chances, and we played in I think back then it was called the DABC, an old league that they had in the Dayton area where you would travel around and play in high school. And truth is, I was never a very good player. It wasn't. I loved it. I understood it, but it wasn't something I was ever good at. You know what I mean? I wasn't that good. I mean, I would hit in a summer season. You know, I would hit 300. I'd hit a couple homers because when I hit one, it would go a long way. Um, and so as I got older, at 18, I was probably done. I never played in any varsity baseball. I mean, truthfully. But at 18, I was probably done, but Jerry Sawyer's. So Jerry knew me from my high school. He said I really knew the game. He thought I should start coaching. He helped me set up a 10U team with Zach Trent. That was in 2003. Um, and I've tried to learn everything I could possibly learn. I've been to ABCA conventions. I've been to the state clinic. I've read every book. I follow hitting coaches. Hitting's what I've really learned to love. Um, the game management stuff has always kind of naturally come easy to me, like when we're managing a game.
Well, I wanted to ask you a little bit about that
Yeah.
because, obviously you know a lot about baseball. I wonder when that knowledge, like, were you able to use some of the knowledge that you learned in coaching? Did you have some of that when you did play when you were younger, or
I
did
did.
that come
I
after?
mean, I knew the game because I watched baseball constantly.
Okay.
I grew up watching the game. There was an old, I don't even remember what it was called, but there was an old like green box board game, so to speak, that had like cards. Runner on first and third, runner on first and
Oh, I
second.
know what you're talking
I
about.
forget what it was called.
I need
But
to bring that back.
yeah, it was a really good game, and then you would have like 8 teams that you would get in your packet, and they would all have a lineup. So then they would all have like a roster of player cards. So like if Cincinnati was one of the teams, you would have 15 players, and then you would make your own lineups, and then you would roll dice, and if you rolled a 11, you would look first and third situation. You rolled an 11, oh,
Interesting.
double play, right? So you got to learn what situational baseball back then by playing that game. It was so fun. I actually still have it. I don't remember the name of it. It's in my basement right now. Um, but I think that was really kind of a cool way. Plus, I watched the game constantly.
Yeah.
I still do, right? College baseball, I'm going to watch it every chance I get. Pro baseball, I'm going to watch it every chance I get. I just love the game.
It's funny. So you in that with Jerry Sawyer's, you mentioned Zach Trent.
Mm-hmm.
Zach's our president of P413 baseball. He's heavily involved in here in the facility. Tell us your relationship with Zach, and kind of how that's progressed and where it started.
Yeah, so Zach is everything that you want a human to be. He's an incredible human. He's he cares a lot about our players. He doesn't get the credit he deserves for what he means to us as an organization because he always did it in the shadows and never really wanted any credit, right? It was always about everybody else. It's always been about everybody else with Zach, right? Zach does everything that nobody sees. So there's no way we could be the organization we are without Zach Trent. And honestly, he is a really, really good coach. He does a really good job with what he wants to be. He has a niche that he likes, that he prefers, and he focuses on that. And so I've always really, I have hold Zach Trent in the highest regard.
And he gave hitting lessons back in the day, didn't he?
Yeah, he's a really good hitting coach.
Yeah.
When you go back to guys back in the day, there's a lot of guys over the years that played college baseball that they hit with Zach
Yeah.
in the old warehouse, and um, and a lot of those people just don't realize those were Zach's guys.
Yeah.
So
And he's got 3 kids now and doing everything he's doing now. It ain't easy. I got 2 kids now, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to somewhat understand what you guys are all going through with.
I
you
think
guys got
Dougie's
kids.
got us beat, brother.
He does. He does. Man,
yeah, so
that's cool.
yeah, no, so yeah, Zach's amazing.
Yeah, no. So I mean, with Zach, I mean, I think you should kind of hit on that piece a little bit more. What was it like to kind of instruct? Because you said that you used to do it side by side with Zach,
Yeah,
right?
so, well, we had 2 cages, and we would leave Mondays in the old warehouse for us to work with hitters one-on-one. We used to do 2-man groups that became 3-man groups because we figured guys can get plenty of swings in a 3-man group. So we would sit next to each other, and obviously, I remember back in 2002, it was like August, we went to the Ponderosa, which is next to the Waffle House in Miamisburg, around the
Yeah.
corner of 725 and 741. And we took a napkin and we drew a facility on what we wanted to work toward. Zach still has it, which is weird, but it's cool. Right?
Yeah, no, that's
So
great.
so and
That's
that
kinda
and
fun.
that basically that was 18 years prior to P413 opening, but that was always the long-term vision.
Yeah, so I mean, how is it to see it from that point and then to see the business model that we are kind of working with currently?
Well, I think we're learning, right? I mean, is our business model perfect? No. Can we learn? Yes. Can we get better? Yes. Um, what I love about our current model is that when people come in, everybody says hi to everyone,
Yeah.
right? We all joke around with each other. We all give each other crap, right? We all have each other's back. We all really care about each other. When you walk into P413, it doesn't matter if you're a P413 kid or you play for any of the local organizations. We care about everybody. It's not about us. It's always about them.
I think a lot with that too is like a lot of us that work in the facility and train kids, like this is like our full-time job too. Like, I think, the old school way is like everybody's, this is like their second job. This is like we're like heavily invested in helping these kids reach their dreams and their goals. And it's like this is like at least I can speak for myself. I'm sure you guys can too, but it's like, we think about a lot about these kids, success and how can we change what we're doing to help them, and it's like that's all we think about, at least.
For
Oh
sure.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird, and I don't want to sound weird, but I'm going to here quick. There's times where we think about these kids when we're laying in bed at night, or
For
just
sure.
like, what are we gonna do this, or how are we gonna, you know what I mean? And
Like,
it's yeah,
that's your
and
job, you know what I mean?
exactly.
Well, like I said, it never stops. I mean, when I'm at home, I've never stopped thinking about this. I'll text you guys randomly at midnight or
Yeah,
1 a.m. or 2 p.m. or whatever. I'm always thinking about it. Next August we need to add this. Next September we need to add this. Like,
100%.
but it's November. Calm
Yeah.
down, right?
But
And I'll tell you who gets it the most is my wife, right? Jamie, because she's my counselor, right? Hey, what do you think about these 30 ideas? Hey, whatever you think's best. Like,
Right.
she's so supportive and she's so amazing. And uh, I've always said that the hardest job in the world is a coach's wife because you have to give up your husband, right, for other people's kids, right? You're going to hear them constantly getting bashed if you go to a game because they're going to do this wrong or that wrong according to most parents, and you have to sit there and take it, and so you have to hear negativity about the person that you love while he's not at home because he's doing everything he can for everybody else. So
right.
I mean, my wife's amazing. She's an angel.
Yeah, Jamie's awesome. Don't sit behind home plate, right? Don't sit behind home plate. But no, I mean, Jamie, you know, you can get so busy so many times throughout the year, and you can get very stressful. And obviously, I didn't meet you before Jamie, but I can't imagine how you would do what you do right now with
It's
all the
impossible.
stuff that
There
you do.
there is
It's
no
crazy.
way. There is no because in 2012 I was done. Right, I
Yeah,
was done coaching. I pretty much had my fill. It was 10 years in. Mark Clausing and Paul Reeser talked me out of it. And
yeah,
then that's when I started dating Jamie, and it kind of all changed,
yeah,
right? As we got together, as we got married, with the kids and all that stuff, it changed everything for me.
for sure.
I could never do what we do now without her.
Yeah, I know we always joke about like balance and trying to keep balance, but that is your balance. That's what keeps you balanced.
She is
Yeah.
my balance.
Yeah.
I can't do balance like you do. Like, I've always like respected how you can turn off a clock of don't text me before this time or don't call me before this time or we'll do it at nap time at this time. I can't do that. I am 100% go until I pass out,
Yeah,
right? And she is the one thing that balances me out.
100%.
I mean, shouts out to the wives, right?
Without a doubt, dude. I mean, they have to be fully supportive, fully all in, and it's
I
really
can
hard to
say,
do
yeah.
that without that.
Yeah, it'll
That's
never
awesome.
it'll never work if without it.
It's been the same way with Krista and I, and I'm sure with you and Chelsea as well.
100%.
You know, um,
Yeah, I mean, I've known Doug for a long time now. It's been what, 6 years now, 7 years maybe.
Yeah, sounds like it. Yeah, so
Yeah, and I remember, when we first met, it was obviously about player development, which is ultimately what we all ended up doing, and that's what we're doing now full time. And for us, when we first met, it was more so meeting about the players and talking about, the guys that I was training at that time and how to make your program better at that time, which was obviously the Canes. And I got invited to a couple of the practices as our relationship grew. And for me, when I showed up to those practices and saw how you were running that, I was like, okay, this is like, this is a real deal. You're running a really good practice. You got a lot of coaches that are all, you're taking a 90-minute practice and it looks like a college practice. And I remember like, after seeing that and getting to know you a little bit more, I was like, why the heck are you not coaching college baseball? I'm like, what are you doing? And I still think that to this day. Like, if somebody needs a college coach, give this man a job. Like, this guy, he would kill it, 100%. And but like from there, obviously, you had my respect from there. So I was like, okay, I'm new to the area. I was still playing pro ball at the time, so I was like, okay, where can I, fit in with people that are like-minded like myself that can, help, us do that dream of coaching baseball. So, with Doug, got to, know you more, got to know how you treat kids and stuff like that. Because for me, coaching was on you for me. So I learned a lot from you and learning a lot, coaching the game of baseball. I mean, I've been out of high school baseball for a long time. So kind of coming back in and seeing like, okay, how can we help kids get recruited? How can we help kids get to the next level? And me being a new coach and going through that process, like you pushed me really hard to get better at, the pitching side. Obviously, I wanted to help guys throw harder and improve their body, but it's like you kind of came in and you were like, okay, well, how do we get this guy to throw more strikes? How do we make him, how do we get his off speed? How do we get him to improve sooner so we can get him more recruitable? Because back then, guys were getting recruited as freshmen. So, I got to understand pretty quickly, a lot of the coaches that you help mentor and a lot of the kids that you work with, it's all very much the same. You push guys to be better. I think sometimes that can be, like seen the wrong way because you push guys pretty hard, if that makes sense. And I actually, I perform really well in that atmosphere, and that some guys don't. I think some guys it takes a little bit of time to get comfortable in that atmosphere, but like I've seen what you've done with DC, and obviously that was a little later in our relationship, but you know, you as a coach is, made me realize there's like a lot more to baseball than just like, like for me, it was more so, I just played baseball, I was talented, I knew my things on the mound, but like, I never seen anybody do what they're doing like with base running. Like you care so much about base running and over time it like makes sense because like you see it. So like all those little things, like I remember I had coaches in high school and college, they always talk about like the little things and the little things. And as a baseball player, you're not really thinking about that. You're like, why are they always talking about the little things? It doesn't make sense. I'm like, whatever. And then like you get into the coaching side, you get some maturity, and like that's what you focus on. You make sure all the little things are where they need to be. And I think that's why you win so much or end up like that's like a byproduct of all the work you do putting into that. So like, and I think you take that, getting to know you personally, and you take that and you take it into, your personal relationships and, creating a relationship with the kids and the families. And it just shows with the work that you do. And that's that's what I ultimately have learned a lot from you. And I'm excited to see kind of how we keep growing, not only as a relationship but obviously as a business. And you know I'm happy that you've been able to take that to a more selfish realm in terms of like learning how to like get coach hitting at even a higher level. And you've done that in the last 4 years with learning some of the stuff from Joey Kuna and going into like the ABCA that obviously that opened up all our minds. So like I think everything you're starting to learn now and do now is going to be crazy in the next 5 years, if that
Yeah, I
makes sense.
definitely think that you've elevated yourself quite a bit. And I know you don't like to hear stuff like that, but it's true. And not only do you mentor some of the guys you see around yourselves, but I don't know if you realize how much you mentor me. How much you just live your life, which it's understood.
That's gonna help everybody around.
Mr.
Yeah.
Coach,
Mr. Coach.
Mr. Coach.
But it's true. Like every day, I think you come in here and it's just kind of a world of nature. Like it's just second nature for you to just be who you are, do the things you do. And I think that that's the brilliance behind it is the fact that it's inspirable. It is what it is.
Yeah,
Like, I mean,
I
we're not trying to get
I
you all
appreciate everything. I mean, as long as a coach, it's very simple. The best coaches care about the players first.
Yeah.
They care about the people around them first, right? That's always been my thing, right? I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that they hook up with forward players and take them to lunch and do this and that. They have conversations with them. They're in their life forever. Like those are the guys that I respect. Those are the guys I want to be, and those are the guys I want around me. So just love on everybody around you, and good things will happen.
Moving into our next topic, let's talk about recruiting. So, what got you into the recruiting game? What fires you up about recruiting?
Well, you get to allow players to reach a dream. Their dreams to play college baseball. So, for us to be the best versions of ourselves as a staff, as an organization, we have to help every player that has that dream of playing college baseball. We want to place all of them, right? So that's where we're at. So I mean, obviously, recruiting's hard, especially now with all the new rules and stuff. But I would say my passion for recruiting is simply when you get to see that kid get an offer he didn't think he could get.
Yeah.
And it's special. A good example is we had a kid this fall committed to a school. I'll be honest, I told him not to commit to it. He didn't listen. He committed, and then we had to have a conversation and talk about a decommitment. And then he continued to grow, and now he's in a really, really good situation for him. Not that the other situation wouldn't have been fine. I just think long term it's probably a little better for him. And that's not a shot at any school, but like that's the thing, right? It's about them reaching their top potential. So yeah, no, I mean I love recruiting because of what it does for our players.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I mean, in that situation, you recommended the kid to hold out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, it's like it's the forbidden sign of faith.
I mean, you have to understand who you are. It's like if you're a pitcher,
Right.
right? I'm not a top V guy, right? I know some enough to be dangerous, as they say, right? It's something that I want to get into more. I want to study. I want to learn. I've read some of the information and stuff, but I mean, I would love to go intern with Juan for one off season, but I can't do that, right? I'm kind of busy on the hitting
Yeah, we're
side, right?
pretty busy.
To help our hitters and stuff. So I try to walk over there whenever I can and learn what I can. But I have been around long enough to know, based on physicality changes with a player, where the velo is now, where the spin rate is now.
Trends.
It's coming.
Yeah.
Like it's about to explode.
Yeah.
And I've been around Juan long enough to know that when I see certain tells, right, that okay, it's coming, it's about to explode. And it's made a joke, but I told you, for example, back in September, right, Joey's hitting 90 this year.
Yeah.
Right? And you saw it coming, right? Because he had committed to his body, he had committed to the weight room, he had committed to his top V work, he had committed to everything that Juan was asking him to do. And he always had a talented arm, right? He was always a talented arm. He always had pitchability, but he bought into everything that it needed to do, right? So you can kind of see that coming, And I mean, I think that's something that you just have to you have to trust the process. We ask our players to trust us, long term in recruiting, if you play in our organization, we got you.
Mm-hmm.
Like we'll be fine. We got you. Just keep working.
And I think a lot about, recruiting and player development is very much very similar conversations because, recruiting has always been a lot about, projectable,
Yep.
right? Because you're signing guys a year early
Mhm.
or 2 years early. So a lot of those coaches, depend on us to kind of help them kind of skim through the names because there's a lot of names and there's limited spots, and for us, that's why, we're into the development piece because it's like, okay, you join one of our teams, or even if you're not one of our teams and you train with us, we'll still help you with that stuff. You still help with guys.
Yep.
So for recruiting and development, it's the same because it's like you tell us your goals. Hey, I want to go play at this school, or hey, this is what I want to do. So it's our job as the instructors to like, okay, this is what you need to do to get to that spot by this time, so we can help you get recruited. Like, because you have to help yourself.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, you can. And recruiting goals change because some guys, when they come in a year in or two, 2 years before it's time, they're like, okay, I think this is my limit, or this is where I think I can go. And then it can change like that, like you said.
Yep.
So it's like a lot of it, I think with recruiting, it's a lot of who you know and who's helping you with recruiting. And it's not so much, even though it's a big deal about like who you know in terms of like relationships that you have to help guys and to get into better schools and stuff like that. That's a big deal. But also too, like if you don't have somebody guiding you towards like, hey, like, we should focus more on these type of schools first, or like some guys, like for me, when I was in high school, I only thought about baseball. I didn't think about the education side of it. So like, I didn't have a coach tell me like, okay, I know you're undecided, but like maybe you should think about like, what you want to study. That way you're kind of set up in a good, like, I didn't have any help recruiting. So like, I think that, recruiting and development kind of go hand in hand, which is kind of like the example that you gave.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why it's so important that our guys as a staff are on the same page.
Yeah.
I always say that you can't be half pregnant. We're either all in on this or we're all out.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as half pregnant, right? So you have to continue to battle. You have to understand who you are. But I think that's why it's important to put really, really good people around you that are really, really good in their areas.
Yeah.
Right? Frank is as good a player development guy as I've ever seen in the world. You're as good as as really a throwing guy, not even a pitching guy, right? You're a great pitching guy, but I mean, I've always enjoyed what you do for shortstops, what you do for center fielders, what you do for
Catchers.
catchers. You know, we were there, get their throwing velos up, things like that. And it's cool that they can get on the mound at their gas too. But
Hmm.
so I've always appreciated that. And you know, and then you've got guys like now Turner in here and Kai and Chad Brand helps us, Max Ramsey. I think everybody's got a piece in this,
Yeah.
right? Mike Randolph, Kent Reeser, Brian Corbett, Tyler Venners. Tyler Venners is so underrated in our program,
Yeah.
right? So I remember Venners, the player, right? Played for Lance
Yeah.
back in the day, coached in our organization since he was just out of high school.
Right.
Tyler is the most underrated coach in our program. There's a lot of people don't know who Tyler is in the summer world, and he does so much for our program. Every Sunday morning in here, him and Frank just grinding it out. Tyler deserves way more credit than he gets. Obviously, he went and coached at Oakwood. Everybody got to see what kind of coach he was. Won Coach of the Year, I believe, his first year.
Yeah,
Right?
D2 Coach of the Year.
Right? Yeah. I mean, D2 Coach of the Year. I mean, it's not a surprise. Like Tyler's a really good baseball coach.
Yeah.
You know, so you know,
Well, it's funny you bring up Tyler. I went to high school with him.
That's
And I mean, we played ball together growing up. And we also got to coach together at Northridge. So, you know, you're not wrong about Tyler. Tyler's a brilliant person.
Yeah, Northridge was a tough situation for Tyler.
Yeah, it's tough.
He got us once at Dayton Christian. He never lets me live it down. The next year, he scheduled us on senior day. That didn't work out so well for him.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know. My brother really remembers that.
Well, thinking about a lot of those names that you give out, I think kind of going back to like the coach conversation that we had, it's like, well, what I've noticed from especially like the head coaches in our program, I think most of the guys that, coach in our program and that I've seen coach that are really good coaches in this area, they do a great job of holding their players accountable. And I think that's really what it is. It's like, sometimes it can be seen as you could rub people wrong the wrong way, but all you're doing is you're really just holding people accountable. Hey, you said you were going to do this. You told me you want to do this. You told me you wanted me to get you recruited to this school, but I don't see the work ethic. It's not there. You're slacking. Like, so that accountability piece as a coach, I think is huge because that's what you guys live by. As a head coach, it's like, holding that person accountable of what they said they were going to do. And yeah, I mean, each year we do tryouts. So like when we do tryouts, it's like, okay, like, I would assume as a head coach, because I'm not a head coach, it's like, okay, I'm going to hold these guys accountable. Who's going to perform well this offseason? Who's going to be where they need to be in the summer? And holding guys accountable, I think, is like a big piece that I see with a lot of you guys as head coaches that you guys do really well.
Well, no, I mean, that's so as far as us as head coaches, I mean, I'm not a head coach quite yet, but you're a head coach at Dayton Christian. Tell me the relationship there. Tell me kind of,
Yeah.
what it means to you and whatnot.
I love Dayton Christian.
DC.
Yeah, we are DC, right? The old-fashioned #Warriors rake. Yeah, I love Dayton Christian. So I went there for the first time back in 2010. John Sharp was the coach, and he brought me in as hitting coach, and I was the JV coach.
I didn't know that.
And when you coach at Dayton Christian, so that team had Mike King, who has the career batting average record,
Okay.
494 in his high school career.
Wow.
Tanner Green, Walter Milner, Matt Farmer, Jeremiah Bennett, all those guys. It was a really special group. 2011 was the first year that we won the Metro Buckeye, which was really, really cool. So that was awesome. And then obviously I got out after that, and just because of my job and work and stuff, and then was able to when unfortunately Coach Pavlik had a medical issue. Tim Bauer took over as the interim coach in 2018. They had a great season. So fortunately enough, I was able to get the head coaching job because of Ben Schroyer, the athletic director, in 2019. The first year was a little rough because I can be a little abrasive, a little overbearing, and we have built a program that I'm really, really proud of. I've made mistakes in that program, but we've had some success. And
We all make mistakes.
yeah, last year, our coaching staff was fortunate enough to become second in school history in wins and pass Coach Sharp, who gave me my chance to coach school baseball. So I love Coach Sharp. Great person, great human, good baseball coach. So that one actually was pretty meaningful. It was really cool for our staff and our players to reach that goal because At Dayton Christian, at the beginning of every year, we get in a conference room and we have a meeting, and they get the whiteboard and they get control of the whiteboard, and they have to dictate what our season's going to be, what our goals are, what are we trying to achieve. Because it doesn't matter what I want to achieve or Coach Halter, right? And they set goals, and one of their goals was for us to get second on the wins list. You know what I mean? So that was kind of a cool moment to pass the coach that I worked for. But it was really just our guys. It became their goal. Yeah, so we've had some great relationships. 2019 we had a remarkable season. We won 21 games. District final, we had the rain game against Versailles. I don't think I'll ever get over that in my coaching career, where Justin Dilhoff doesn't have it. The conditions aren't the best. I say, hey, let's cancel, come back tomorrow. The official said no. I mean, because there was a state guy there too. We're going to try to finish this no matter what. I said, we sure. So I bring in Dylan Bauer. Bauer just shoves. Dylan was nasty, drops down a little bit. Absolutely disgusting. Pitched at Cedarville. He went 5 1/3 on 37 pitches or something. He was dominating. We were up. After 6, they stopped it. We had to come back the next day. Well, with high school rules, if you're over 30 pitches, you can't pitch the next day.
Right.
So Dylan, Andrew, and Justin were not available to come back and throw the 7th inning. And then district final. I threw a kid who, unfortunately, had only thrown 6 1/3 innings all season, and he gave up 5 runs in the 7th. And we lost 13-12. So
you guys are ready for that COVID year.
so
My stomach's hurting.
yeah,
Thinking about it.
it's one of the worst losses I've ever experienced in anything that I've been a part of. We come back. I mean, we were in the dugout for 45 minutes crying.
I believe it.
I mean, that was Sam Jackson's last game in a DC uniform. Sam was special, our catcher. We're coming back the next year, and we've got the whole team back but Sam. We got Dilhoff and Dreyer, who are both now at 90 miles an hour because of Juan. Ryan Edgerton was up to 83, 84. Naaman Anderkin was bursting on the scene at that time, 83, 84. That was before the arm, and the nerve thing. We had Grizzy back. We had Dylan was back. Dylan was mid-8s at the time, 82, 85, So we were going to get ready to go through this tournament run with legitimately 7 arms, 82 or better at a smaller division.
Yeah.
We were loaded and we were set up. I mean, I think it would have been fun to see Dreyer or Dilhoff, whichever one would have been available, versus Sipple in the regional with Madison, because they were loaded too. And we actually played them in 2019 and beat them 8-6. I think it was 8-6. But we beat them that year, the year before. I remember Luke Carnegas got a really big out, and coming in for relief for Andrew Dreyer, and so we were set up. We had an amazing setup. The only thing we needed was a catcher. Well, luckily for us, coming in that year was freshman Nate Scanlon and sophomore Nick Dilhoff. Right, so I think we would have been just fine behind the plate.
Right.
Whichever one would have won the position. I think they both would have got to play. Right. I mean, and Nate went on to set 1 million records that his brother all broke up, most of them. Right, with Isaac. So it was just sad that the 2020 season got canceled. I think we could have done some special stuff.
For sure.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, so when it comes to Dayton Christian, then we get to 2021, and that was when this program was dead.
You lose all those big names.
We lost all those big names. We lost 7 guys that would have started for us. We never got to play our senior year, and Dayton Christian was dead. I heard all about it. The conference streak is going to be over because we had won 2 in a row at that time, 3 in a row at that time. And we had this group of 22s that were just special. Naaman Anderkin, Luke Carnegas, Isaiah Boss, Nick Dilhoff, Caleb Tomlin. And they were just, I don't want to say too stupid, but they didn't know they weren't supposed to win. They thought they were bigger than they were, and they played like it. And went on to win 20 games again and make it.
That works, man.
But yeah, it's just, there's a lot of pride in DC baseball. There's a lot of pride in
It
that.
shows. It shows.
I mean, our guys really, really care about DC baseball. I mean, if we lose a game, I get a text from former guys, and I get in trouble. So
Well, I think that's the beauty of high school baseball, which is why we're big proponents of high school baseball. Because, obviously summer ball, is a different monster. But high school baseball, I think that's where guys, learn how to play baseball as a team. That's where guys, you start learning you start understanding what's, who's the clubhouse guy and why that plays a big role, and guys helping each other, older guys going into roles when maybe a new sophomore's coming in or vice versa. So it's you don't learn that stuff in summer baseball.
you do not.
And that's what high school baseball is, and that's why it's so important, because when you're playing summer baseball to play baseball at a higher level, but the moment you get to college baseball, you're like back in high school again.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh yeah.
Way.
That's one of the things I love about high school baseball. You need high school baseball to understand what college baseball is going to be like,
Without a doubt.
right? You have to have that.
That competition piece is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's fun to. I know how this sounds crazy. It's fun to try to win.
Yeah.
Like in high school baseball, it's okay to try to win.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? So you're trying to win a conference championship. I think it's important for kids to understand you need to play in a league.
Yeah.
You need to have standings. You
Yeah.
need to understand that this game's important. It
Yeah.
matters, right? It teaches you how against the quote unquote lesser team in the league, you can't drop one.
Yep.
Right. You can't get upset. You have to be ready every day, because that loss can hurt you later when you're
100%.
getting on with the top team in the league and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I think you took that, that negativity from, COVID year, losing all those guys, and it's obviously shown at DC baseball. Excited, you guys got some big names coming up again, so you guys look like you're on your way up again.
I hope so. I mean, Metro Buckeyes better than it's been. There's an arm out at Yellow Springs who's up to 87 now. He's pretty good. He threw a game against us as a freshman last year, and it was tough. Like I think we won 4-2. And then Legacy has just consistently gotten better under Sean.
Yeah.
Last year we split with them. They dropped one against Emmanuel, which helped us in the standings to get our 7th conference championship in a row. But Legacy is going to be a problem. I mean, Jacob Thompson, the pitcher of the year, is coming back for them. You know what I mean? Hirschner's done a really good job over there. They got some guys who can play. Squirrel, Josh King, David, like all those guys can play. So it's going to be the Metro Buckeyes going to be much more difficult this year than it's been in the past.
Well, this is with everything that's been released. This is your last year in the Metro Buckeye, correct?
Yeah. So yeah, last year in the Metro Buckeye. So this will be next year going to the SWBL.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
So who are the teams in that league?
Valley View on our side. It'll be Valley View, Oakwood, Carlisle.
Oh, those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Bellbrook,
Bellbrook
all
on the
down
other
the
side.
yeah.
But yeah,
So that's this year or next year?
next year. Yeah, Waynesville, those schools, right?
Oh, that'll be fun.
Brookville with Tyler Eaton. Like Franklin's on the other side with like.
Oh yeah, I keep thinking of this.
Yeah, so I mean, like we're on the small side, but it's going to be a huge step up for us. Going to be, I mean, Hawkins has an incredible program.
Yeah.
Carlisle. Tyler Eaton is a phenomenal coach and a better human. Love that dude.
Yeah, me too.
Really good coach at Brookville. Bailey Montoya getting the job at Valley View. I mean, that's gonna change that program, right?
100%.
It's gonna change that program. Bailey's a heck of a coach. Tyler Vinters at Oakwood.
I was gonna say, speaking of winners,
Right. I love Vinters, but we're gonna have to compete.
Oakwood's there, Franklin's there too.
No, Franklin's on the other side, but yeah. So I mean, then you got Waynesville. We played Waynesville last year. Pitcher that used to work with Nate LeBlanc beat us 5-3, 6-3, something like
I
that.
think Ben Freeze is there too, right?
Yeah, he's dog.
That'll be a big year.
So the league's going to get tougher, and I'm forgetting a couple teams, and that's not intentional. I'm sure you know what I mean, but the league's going to get tougher. But so what? Nobody cares, right? We're going to be the smallest school in the league by probably 100 kids.
Yeah.
So
it's just another opportunity to show what you can do.
Just show up, compete. We're gonna get better every day.
That's awesome.
That's so. We're excited for the challenge.
Yeah. So obviously, DC, they're on their way up, and obviously you're gonna have, a nice little opportunity to play a higher level of baseball. How would you explain to the parents and the baseball community like what the differences are with like summer baseball and high school baseball at DC? Like what are the differences?
Yeah, well, I think one of the big differences is that in DC you coach who you coach.
Yeah.
Right. I think one thing that I think goes underlooked for a lot of people at Dayton Christian is I'm jealous of a lot of schools in that regard, right? Because I can't put a 9-man lineup out of summer baseball players at Dayton Christian.
Yeah.
Right. You have 70 of them. Right. And that's not. We don't have 9 guys that play baseball in the summertime. So it is a totally different situation. So you got to have that. You have to have that mentality of I'm going to do whatever I can for the team. We have a kid named Caleb Forte who's a senior here, and Caleb's a big part of our program and doesn't get the credit he deserves sometimes. He's been our pinch runner for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
He comes in late in the game, and he can run.
Yeah.
Right. And he's worked really hard, and I believe he has a really good chance to start for us as a senior. But he's coming in, hey, Caleb, I need second. I got you, coach. And he'll go out and he steals the bag.
Heck
You get
yeah.
a big steal, and then you get a knock. Now Caleb scores.
That fires me up, dude. That's
Yeah.
baseball.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
baseball.
That's baseball.
I need second. Go get it. I got you.
Yeah.
And he'll go out and he'll steal the bag. And then we get the big hit. And now we take the lead, or we get that insurance run. 'Cause he's a really good base runner. What can you do for the program? So I mean, the biggest difference is, like I said, you look at our program. I mean, for the Canes, for example. I mean, the Scanlon boys, Isaiah Boss, Naaman Anderkin, Nick Dilhoff, I guess Alec Halter, Noah Wickline.
Yeah.
So about 7 over the
Yeah.
last 6 years that have played in our organization in the
Yeah.
summertime. You know what I mean? So it's not everybody. But what I will say is it'll help me understand the SWBL talent
Mhm.
because I see those guys play in the summertime.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I'll have a really understanding of what we're up against going in. I know the players. Um, you know, I there's a lot of coaches who I have great relationships in that program that'll reach out to me and go, "Hey, what about this? What about this kid? What about this kid? Hey, have you seen this kid?" Well, that information is going to be stayed with me once we're in the conference, right? I'm not going to share it as much.
For sure.
So I mean, I just think I'll be able to. We'll have we'll have a good understanding. Summer of baseball will give us a good understanding of how we want to attack certain hitters.
Yeah.
It'll give us a certain understanding of how we want to attack certain pitchers based on knowing what they do well.
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing summer baseball does for Dayton Christian the best is when we show up and it's like this kid's highly ranked or highly recruited or this or that, and we're getting ready to play against them. We kind of know how we would attack them in the summertime with whatever team they're on.
Yeah.
So it does help if that knowledge piece a little bit.
Absolutely. I think it's really important, and a lot of things get noticed for what we see, but I think a lot of people don't understand what they don't see, right? So if we put all the entire list together, you help run this building, you coach at DC, you are the head of our recruiting in our high school program, you do hitting instruction, you all this stuff, right?
Thank you,
What
Jamie.
they don't see is what they don't see is the impact you have on our youth program. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about how, with your hands into the youth program and you coaching at the 13U level, how youth baseball
Well,
is for you?
I love coaching the younger team. Like it is so fun. Like last year when we went to Ripken as 12-year-olds and made it all the way to the finals against teams we probably didn't have business beating. Playing our brand of baseball. If you talk to our current 13U team, the thing I'm the most proud of and the most excited about is walk up to any of them in the facility just as a fun game for you guys. You and ask my guys that played on my team last year. Get a big bunt down, hit a home run, which you prefer. Every one of them will say get the bunt down.
Mm.
Like our dugout goes bananas when one of our players gets a bunt down.
Mm.
Like they live what we want to be. Bunting's a huge weapon. It's one of the most underrated parts of the game, right? So if you can teach these guys at a young level that you can attack bunting isn't giving up, right? It's attacking them strategically,
Yeah.
forcing guys to rotate, maybe taking advantage of them if they don't rotate correctly, all these things. So I like teaching that part of it to the youth game. I will say at the youth game, Zach Trin is really, really good. He cares a lot about really, really good people coaching our youth teams. So the person first, right? Coach second. But I really enjoy it. I think Frankie does an amazing job for our youth with the program development stuff where he's out here with them 3 nights a week. And there's other coaches too, but he's here every night, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't come in for 1 night a week and work with the youth. Frankie is bought in completely on all these youth guys. They come in 3 days a week for an hour and a half. They get their positional work, they get their hitting, they get base running, they get, all that stuff that Frankie leads in the off-season program. We have to find a way. I want to give one of my big focuses this off season is when I say off season for me, I mean while we're playing. So that's the
Yeah.
season, right? But I know that sounds crazy, but when I think P413 baseball, for me, off season is March to July, and in season is August to February.
Well, it's our season, right?
Because that's when we're getting better. That's when we're training. That's when we can give them more. We have to find a way to do more for our youth teams. Still working on that. Don't know what that looks like, but that is a really, really important thing for me going forward. We have to give more to our youth teams. At the high school level, as far as recruiting, I get a lot of help from Kevin Harleman. Kevin does a phenomenal job when I need him. You know what I mean? He's there. I can reach out. He's extremely connected. He does a great job. Not a lot of people can even know who Kevin is. He came in and did our recruiting videos last Saturday. Um, so there's that, and then also you got Frankie helping, and
Yeah, speaking about the youth program, I got to work on Sundays with the 13U and the 14U guys, and they're just starting their throwing progression, and it's I love 14U. 14U is freaking awesome because like you get to see a lot of those kids from like 10U, 11U, and then they start hitting those growth spurts at 14U, and then you start seeing the differences and like the mechanics that we've been working on the last 2 years, and their velocity is starting to change. Can you talk a little bit about I forget what the records were when they started, but like, Orwick's team, Marty's team, seeing where they started when they were like 11U to like at least what I'm starting to see now at 14 as they're throwing baseballs, they're starting to grow into their bodies. It's really cool to see like kind of where like that specifically that team and not, we have a lot of really good youth coaches in our program. But I just remember like the struggles that team faced like those first 2 years.
yeah, so funny story. Marty comes to me after the first year with that team, and let's just face it, they weren't very talented.
Yeah.
I think that's the nicest way to say it. And he's like, "Man, we only won this many games. Man, just what a season!" And he was beat down by the season. And I said, "Marty, you're looking at this all wrong." And he's like, "Well, why is that?" And I said, "Because we're all over here wondering how you won that many."
No.
Perspective, right?
And you don't break Marty very often, but he just
Yeah.
started chuckling, and
Yeah.
he's like, and he didn't know what to say, right? So, but I prefer that more.
That's why we're in this.
That's why we're in this. So, like, that team wasn't very good at 11. Now they're 14, and I think they had a winning record last year.
I mean, they're progressively
13.
getting
Yeah.
better with the record every year.
That team works. Like, there is no excuses with that team.
Yeah.
Right? When you look at I mean, you think about Hayden Cross, Adam Gray, Logan Orwick, right? You know what I mean? Keelan Sweet, all these guys, and I could go on with that whole list. I love those dudes.
Oh
right?
yeah.
But they've been here along Clay Hortzman, all these guys, right? There's no excuses with that team. And Marty doesn't play, right? Like, this is what we're doing. Either do this or go somewhere else. And I love it.
Yeah.
It's my favorite,
Yeah.
right? They're going to do their hitting. They're
Yeah.
going to do their Sam Faulkner stuff. They're going to do their top V.
Yeah.
And like, if you don't want to do it, he doesn't want you on his team.
Yeah.
Right. And they have this, like, I don't even know what you call it. It's like this cult family following where they love each other, and they're like a big like family. They can live in one house, I think.
Yeah.
Seth Atkins is another one, right? You know,
I think they all know they're not like these extremely talented players, but they know that if they
But
put
that's
in the
what's-
work, they
but that-
know
but
that
that's
there's
just
a
not
chance.
and the
Brilliant.
and the great thing about it is they don't know that now, right? That's not the case anymore. Like Hayden last night in a session with me hit 96.8 EV. He's 14 years old.
Yeah.
Right? We were working on something that he had never done before. The great thing I love about working with Hayden, right? But tell you what, when you work with Hayden Cross, you better have the why. Because when you start doing a new drill that he's never do, he's going to look at you like you're stupid.
Yeah.
And he's going to go, why am I doing this?
Well, because he's been working his butt off doing the other drills that you probably gave him. He just figured them out, and you're like, nope, we're gonna switch it.
So it's like,
100%.
and I remember last night we were working on a new drill, and he's like, why? And I'm like, here's why. And he goes, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then we do it, and he has a huge night. He hit 96 twice. He hit 95 a bunch of times. I think he became number one on our exit velocity leaderboard. You know, he was happy. But I think you don't see Hayden break very often, but he smiled when he hit 96.8. So
I think a little bit about that group too is like, like the mental side. Like Marty really pushes like the mental side of the game with
Yep.
those kids. And yeah, I know he does a lot of like team meetings with them and tries to get them to lock in whenever he feels like they're not. So like kind of going back to like that head coaching part, like accountability. That's what I always see with like a lot of our great coaches is like, dude, when they hold you accountable, man, they let you hear it.
Yeah. I mean, holding them, I think that you're right about that. Marty tries to hold those guys accountable. And I mean, there is no too young to hold anybody accountable. There's no such thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And Marty does a good job of that. Tell us a little bit about your relationship with Marty.
wow, I don't know if I can put that one into words. So I met Marty through Zach. When Marty moved up here working for GFS, he lived with Zach because he needed a place to stay. He had met Gina, so he wanted to stay in this area. Obviously, he married Gina and all that, and our relationship kind of grew. He ended up hiring me at a place called Alcor Supply in Miamisburg because I was not making very much, and I was working down in Franklin at a laundry company where I was delivering. So he hired me as a delivery guy, which really kind of upped my standard for my family, which I could never thank him enough for. Then he left, and I was mad at him for a little bit because I was there and he wasn't. And then he started an LED lighting company, and I think October of 2016 he brought me in and tried to hire me, and I told him no. And then, well, if you've ever tried to tell Marty no, you know how things, you know how it ends
Doesn't
up
work
working
well.
out, right? You end up doing it anyway. So we ended up doing that, and I started working for the LED company, and I ended up working up to president of the LED company, and he kind of taught me business. I would say he's my biggest mentor. I don't do everything the way Marty would do it. We're very different people, but I also think that's good, you know. So, but I know for a fact I still meet with Marty weekly. Those meetings are very important for me, even if I don't know if they are for him at this point. I don't know, but for me, it's nice to have a sounding board. When P413 open, he kind of lets me do it the way I want to do it, and then he's there if I need him.
Talk about another guy in the shadows,
Another guy in
the
the shadows.
background guys. Yeah, yeah. Tie that into P413 and now P413 baseball
Yeah,
because it's kind of coming all full circle.
yeah, he
for
works
sure.
very hard behind the scenes, and that relationship is everything to me. A lot of my faith questions back 2012, 2013 were answered by him. Started going to the same church as him. Um, you know, he came when my wife and I got baptized, right? So before we got married. So all that's important, right? That's crucial. Just he's always there. He's just an incredible person. I love dearly. We fight constantly, like brothers, and we don't actually fight, but he definitely mentors me, and I wouldn't be who I am as a man without him.
Absolutely. You follow. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of like, becoming like who you are as a person and as a coach too. It's like, you can be one coach, 5 years ago, and then over time, things change, priorities change, what you learn, sports specific stuff. And, obviously it's cool to see like what molds different guys and what helps them, push to be better. I think a lot of the fighting just comes from a difference of opinions, and that's with anybody. We argue
Sure.
all the time too.
For
So
sure.
it's just more so like pushing each other to, be
When I say
better.
argue, I mean like discussion, not like fighting, right? You know what I mean?
Well, I just meant argue in terms of
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't agree with that. I think more about it this way,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
For
Just
sure.
difference of
I
opinions,
think that's important.
100%. Yeah. And then I kind of wanted to take that into P413 sports and kind of like how that pushed you business wise, but also too how that led to like the Joey Kuna stuff and pushing your thought process behind getting better at hitting. And I kind of wanted to at least finish up with more hitting stuff questions as the pitching
I
guy.
agree.
So I kind of want to segue more into like hitting and
Yeah.
and I mean, where does hitting as far as like your passions for baseball? Where is hitting when you think about baseball? Obviously, there's coaching, head coaching,
Base
there's
running. There's all
base
kinds of
running. So
stuff.
like, where is hitting in that list for you?
Well, I would say player relationship is first, right? My relationship with guys like Kent Reeser, Brian Corbett, Tyler Venners, Drake Sauber, Noah Bramble, Braden Trent, Colton Molenkamp, Alec Halter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's always first for me. That's what I appreciate the most.
Yeah,
Um, I love the player relationships. I love that they know they can text me. I love that they call me when they're excited. That is first. Probably second is the base running stuff.
okay,
I love the base running stuff. Obviously, I'm all in on the momentum stuff, the shuffle leads
yeah,
from Coach Roberts and uh, Tyler Rico and Mason Sherrill doing it now at a high level, trying to learn from those guys, right? So that's probably so hitting is the thing that I think I'm probably the best at. You know what I mean? When I studied the game, I love studying hitting. I absolutely love it. Uh, there's a bunch of guys that I'll follow. There's a bunch of guys I listen to. I don't believe everything. I like to take little snippets of what I think can help our hitters based on what we're trying to build.
yeah,
Which is that right center approach, stay on the baseball, huge front leg stability guy, huge counter rotation guy. Those are the things that I really believe in as a hitter.
yeah. The reason I ask about hitting is like from the pitching side, I got to hit a little bit in college my first 2 years when I wanted to just be a pitcher only after that. But like one of the major reasons that I stopped hitting was because I was a corner infielder and couldn't hit for power. I can hit a lot more from power now than I could back then, but that's just because I'm bigger, faster, and stronger. But my swing really hasn't changed much. But like I didn't have a hitting coach like you at that time. Like I remember, early on in my coaching career with the Canes and seeing what you did with some of those earlier guys, I'm like, I'm bigger than those guys right now, and I still can't hit the ball out. And these guys, 5'10" guys, 160 pounds are hitting it out. I'm like, this is ridiculous. How does this work? So it's like that's why I bring up hitting because it's like, kind of like all the stuff like that I know about like pitching and how that's changed. I know you guys are on the forefront of like making those changes with hitters and how the game is changing a lot. Like I was taught to hit down on the ball and stuff like that. And people can say they have different approaches about hitting and stuff like that. And obviously, as a pitcher, I'm going to make adjustments based on the swing that I see. But when you have guys like, that have my build, and then the guys that are shorter, maybe not as athletic, are hitting balls out, and the guys that should be hitting balls out aren't. For me, that's when I was like, okay, well, I'm going to give up on hitting because obviously I'm seeing more success on the pitching side. But if I'm playing third and first, how do I stack up to the home run hitter at first if I'm just hitting doubles and can't hit RBIs and stuff like that? So like for me, it's like I seen what you guys are doing on the hitting side, and it's definitely making a big change. And I think the last point I wanted to give with the hitting side, which is I like from the outside looking in, it's a big deal. Like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it was hard to get guys over 80 miles per hour. Like I remember seeing like a lot of guys at 80, 80, 80, 82, 83. Now it's like boom, 90. Everybody's 90, like easy. I'm like, that's not easy.
Right.
It's not
I mean,
easy.
there's still a lot of kids who do struggle there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you learn how to use your body, you learn the right approach. I mean, I think it's one of those feel versus reals.
Yeah.
That's the biggest
I
phrase.
want I want a hitter. I still to this day want a hitter to go down. It's why we do the trout step drill. It's
Yeah.
why we do the bond step back. I want a hitter to feel like they're going down, right?
Mhm.
Now, that's not what it looks like on video.
Yeah.
No,
But from a middle capacity of a hitter with your approach, I'm going to hit this ball down. And then I'm going to be able to stay on top of the baseball. I'm going to be able to spin it. If a guy's throwing really hard, if I got one of your elite guys coming over, I'm going to tell my hitters, imagine a baseball right on top of the current baseball. Try to hit that one
Okay.
because it's going to feel like it's going to rise.
That vertical break.
Because of the right. So it's all about that middle approach. I mean, I think as long as hitters understand that I'm trying to hit this ball through the right center field fence, right? That's my goal in my head. I'm gonna hit it through the right center field wall. That'll help them stay close. That's why I like doing the steps, like the Breggy steps and the trout stuff, where when you step forward after you swing.
Yeah, you gotta explain what those are because those don't mean nothing to me. Those don't mean
So
nothing.
it's just like there's drills like I had Hayden Frost doing it last night. It was the drill I was talking about,
Yeah.
where he likes to open up and pull out.
Okay.
So I tell him to make a swing, and then after he hits it, he has to take his left foot and step forward to the plate.
Yeah.
And what that's going to do is that's going to force his front hip to stay in. He's not going to spin off because his body's going to go, I got to go that way.
And that makes sense because his bat path will stay in the zone longer
Exactly
too.
right.
Okay.
Exactly right. So anything that you can do to make their mind correct something
Mhm.
just by mental approach, that they don't have to think about a swing change. I'm not a big hands guy. Like Frank is way better at teaching hands than me.
Yeah.
Do I teach hands? Yes. Do I teach it last? Yes. I work
When you
with
say hands, what does that mean?
bat path. I'm not a big bat path guy,
I
right?
see.
So now when I get to now Alec Halter and I just started this offseason working on that,
Okay.
right? So he could get a little long and all that, but I wanted him to realize that you have to be violent in the batter's box and hit the ball as hard as humanly possible.
Yeah.
And then as we get to the senior year, once you're getting committed and all those things, we start to clean it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And we start to work on the bat path and stuff like that. Like I said, me and Alec have worked really hard on that this offseason. I think he got to 105.6 or something last night.
Yeah.
So we'll continue to do those things, but it's all about a mentality and how I try to build a hitter. I try to build a hitter from the ground up
Yeah.
with the hands being last.
Yeah.
Where we have great coaches here who go hands first.
Mhm.
And that's okay. It's just not how I believe a hitter should be made.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So sometimes a freshman or sophomore, I lose them before we get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because they're not very patient. But I think this is especially now, we don't have to chase anything till junior year.
Yeah.
we got time to get we got time to get to it. So until I think we're in a certain spot, I don't think there's a reason to rush too much on that. Right now, I want them to be free and easy. I don't want them to be thinking about, that. We do some, I call it the 3-part drill where we fire, right? Launch, fire, and swing.
Yeah.
Right, where they just use their hands to take out. I got one where I like to put them on yoga blocks.
Okay.
Right, they always end up in your area somehow. Right, even though I bought them. I like to put them on yoga blocks to take the lower half out of the swing. They have to stay balanced. They have to stay in the ground, and they got to use their hands to
Okay.
drive everything to right center. For me, it's a big right center approach.
Yeah.
And if you do that and you stay in the zone long enough and you teach them how to fire their hip properly, the extra deals will come.
Kyle, you being, a hitting coach, and you've been a hitter, what are some things that, you've seen, our coaches or Doug do, that, you kind of questioned first and you were like, what's that? And like, what are some things that you're still like trying to understand as a newer coach? And what are some things that you're like, okay, this makes total sense. Why didn't I hear about this earlier? Is there anything like that? Just to kind of, for the sake of starting a hitting question with 2 hitting guys here.
I can say that like everything that you just said just now, I've felt every single bit of that. Every single bit of that since I've been in the building. Um, there are some things I would say I didn't have a lot of mentors growing up, and I didn't have a lot of hitting coaches. It's funny you bring it up. I think because we talked about it. Matt Antonelli, Crane Antonelli
That's right.
baseball. I wasn't able to afford an instructor growing up and learning how to swing. So like my best tool was the only thing I had available, which was like internet.
Yeah.
I would go to the library. I'd watch YouTube videos of Matt Antonelli talk about this, or I think it's John Maddox, or Madden, John Madden, right? With
Go Pro.
you go pro baseball. I would learn how to do stuff with him with pitching. So like, I think it's really good that the social media piece is out there. I think that sometimes things get misconstrued.
Yeah.
But as far as like with Doug, um, I don't ever look at Doug and be like, wow, I don't think that works. Why? Because, maybe part of it has worked for like how long you've been doing this?
So long time.
Exactly. So, and I'm not saying that that's the only reason I believe in what you say. I mean, I value your word. And there are things that I do disagree with. And sometimes either A, I learn my lesson on why I disagree with it and why I shouldn't have, or
Yeah.
why okay, maybe I'm just not so good at teaching that, and I don't think I can apply it the same way.
Yeah.
And I have to find a way that makes it easier for me to apply it.
Yeah. Oh, and that makes total sense.
Yeah.
It's like, how could you teach somebody how to do something if you're not like fully understanding of that thing? You know what I mean?
100%. And to be honest with you, like my clientele base is a lot different from Doug's as well.
Yeah.
It's first off, it's not as big. Doug has a lot of different hitters to work with.
Yeah.
It's not just, the fact that he's got a lot of hitters because he's so good. It's just like he works with youth clients. Why? Because he's able to. He works with, that midsection right there between 12, 13, 14, right? Like
Yeah.
they're kind of youth, but they're kind of getting into the middle school, high school area. He works with guys like that. He's working with high school hitters. He's working with college guys. I mean, he's working with guys left and right.
Yeah.
I'm starting to kind of get into that field, but like
Yeah.
I said, it's kind of along the lines of how big is my tool belt compared to how big is Doug's.
Cool.
And that's just kind of, and every once in a while, Doug will drop something off the tool belt, and I'll pick it up, put it on mine. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of how it works for me, at least as a hitting instructor.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a hitting coach, or as a pitching coach, or as a base running coach, or as a whatever, right, catching coach, you have to understand that you're not the smartest guy in the world.
Mhm.
I think that's first, right? Some guys who I really, really like, I really, really respect, they haven't learned that yet, right? They think they're the greatest guy that's ever came to this game, and I think that's just not a successful pattern for to be successful, because you have to continue to study. You have to watch. I mean, I watch hitting videos every day,
Mhm.
and like there might be something that I like, there might be something I won't like. You know what I mean? And that's okay. But learn from everything.
Yeah.
When we were at ABCA, head coach Tennessee's on stage, and he says, anytime you have a conversation with a person or at ABCA, or anytime a speaker gets on, take one nugget from that conversation. And that's all you're trying to do. Right? If I watch a 5-minute hitting video and one thing helps one kid that I work with, I'm very fortunate with the amount of clients that I'm able to work with on a week in and week out basis. Then that if that helps that one kid, maybe it helps some random kid that you don't even know that doesn't even play P413 baseball, right? But if we can get that one nugget that helps that kid get to or feel it or sense it, I think that's important. And it just clicks and it's better. Obviously for me, I've really got into the farm stuff. Joey Kuna is really, really good. Cody's really, really good. The farm system does things at a really high level that make sense to me. So when I went out to Vegas a couple years ago, and they let me set in on their session,
Yeah.
Joey explained it to me as a water bottle, right? She said, you take this bottle, right? Is the most efficient way to open that bottle to spin the lid? No. Will it come off? Yes. Eventually, you're going to catch it right. I'm going to pour water on you, right? But that lid's going to fly off because you're going to catch it just right. And that's basically if you're spinning, that's what you're going to do. Eventually, you're going to catch it, and you're going to hit it a really long way, and it's going to look right. But what we want is that counter rotation of the bottle going one way and the lid going the other, which is what we're trying to set in our swing. And he has a ton of drills that I use. We use the OGs. I use the Max Farm board. Working on an order right now to get some of the newer things that he has that we really need in our facility for our hitters to take that next step. His video content with Farm Plus is sensational. Sensational. I love having conversations with him. We went and saw all 3 speeches at ABCA. I think 2 of the 3 maybe.
The Rapsodo one was great.
Yeah. I mean the Rapsodo one, the new band stuff he has.
Yeah.
So I really respect how open he is to have conversations and share information with me.
Yeah.
And he's a really good hitting coach and he's a better human.
Yeah, I got a lot from Joey as well. And I think that was another thing, like you asked about what do I take from Doug and what is it that, is rich about the information. I mean, Doug introduced me to ABCA.
Yeah.
You got to see me at my first ABCA. I was like a kid in a candy store.
I was there.
Yeah, it's unreal, man. And we bring it up quite often.
Yeah, I mean, I think ABCA cannot go understated. If you're a coach and you're not going to ABCA, you're not serious about this. And I don't mean that to sound rude or anything, but that's honestly how I feel.
So obviously, yeah, your guys' relationship is going to continue to grow with baseball, with hitting, right? I'm excited to see what, discussions you guys have for hitting and kind of where those arguments are. Every now and then I work my way to the front desk and I get to hear Frankie and I get to hear, the hitting guys talk about all the amazing stuff the hitters are doing. And I'm like, whatever, we can strike you out.
Right.
But talking about the hitting stuff, I want to talk a little bit more about, all that work you guys do with our hitters, how that kind of, takes it into like summer baseball and, P413 baseball as far as like, that stuff. How is that helping our guys and how is that?
Yeah, no, we've had a massive off season. Lots of guys have made gigantic jumps. In our program. I love where our program is right now because of what you're doing, because of what Kai's doing, because of what Xavier's doing, because of what Max is doing, and Chad's doing, and Frankie's doing, and Tyler's doing, et cetera, et cetera. Mike Randolph, Kent Reeser, all these guys.
And Sam
Faulkner has been an absolutely incredible ad. Sam Faulkner's as good as I've ever seen. He works with athletes. The story with him and Drake, where he got Drake to go down 0.3 of a second in 13 days running a 60 is absolutely incredible. All of our players that are working with Sam have made massive strides. The guys that have chosen not to work with Sam, I don't understand it. If you are a high school athlete in this area and you don't work with Sam Faulkner, you are doing yourself a complete disservice.
Or you're just lazy, and that's okay. And that's okay. I get it.
But back to the question about P413 baseball. Our guys have made massive strides. We obviously have all seen the video now of Joey Frisk hitting 90.
Big Joey.
Right?
Little Big Joey.
Yeah, going to Tri-C.
He don't like that.
I know he doesn't. I know he doesn't.
But, when we look at the 26 class, which is kind of where we're at in recruiting now, we have a few straggler 25s that I think will be done in the next month or so. I think we're probably going to get to 26 and 27 players submitted, which will be the most we've ever placed in one class.
Heck yeah.
But when we get to the 26s, we got some guys that are doing some stuff, right? The guys that are here every day, the guys that are showing up. Drake Sauber has had a massive offseason. If you're a Division I coach out there, if you're a high-level Division II coach out there, text me, right?
Yeah.
You need to talk to Drake Sauber. I know his recruiting's picking up now, and he's earned every bit of it. I think he was up to 106 Friday night in the session, 106.4, I think it was. Him and Frankie have worked on some new stuff with his hands, and it's starting to come together. He's starting to figure it out. He's starting how to use his body. Sam Faulkner has made a huge difference for Drake Sauber. Noah Bramble is as good in game as anyone we've ever had. Noah Bramble is phenomenal. He'll play short for us this summer, probably, I would assume. It's Brian's call, but that's what I would assume. But I think he's probably a college second or third baseman. But the bat is real, up over 100 miles an hour. I think he's going to be a 90 guy on the mound.
Oh, he's sick on the mound.
Yeah, I think he's going to be in the 90. He's going to hit 90 here in the next 6 to 8 months, if not sooner, on the mound. It plays in game. Dude hit almost 500 last summer.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what kind of pitching we face, even with the schedule we play. Bramble always hits. Hitters hit, right?
Yeah.
Brady Whitaker, pitchability, another guy that should be highly recruited. Just phenomenal on the mound. Can
Yeah.
really pitch. Continues to grow. I see he had 89 on a step and throw.
Mhm.
So the velo's coming. He's just sensational. A guy I want to talk about that there's two that I think have had massive off seasons that are incredibly underrated in my opinion.
Okay.
Those two guys are Braden Trent, who was up to 102 or something off the bat now. Real power. We went out to play a college team this fall, and in BP, on-field BP before the game, I think he hit 7 bombs in his round.
Yeah.
He ended up getting an offer before the game started.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Left-handed swinger.
Left-hand swinger, first baseman, power guy. Braden Trent is so underrated. Does he have to get more athletic? Yes. He's working with Sam. That's all I can tell him to do.
Yep.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you can tell there's a huge difference in Braden.
But he looks like a baby.
Yeah, but at the same time, like a big, swole, strong baby. Like
Yeah.
that dude's
Like,
big,
right,
man. Like
he's strong, but he's not. He's
he's definitely
His
changed.
body is
that.
changing a
his
lot.
body's
Yeah.
starting to
He's got to
right?
tighten it up. But yeah, I agree.
He's
with you.
going to.
Yeah,
I
he
think there's
is.
some baby fat. I think he might grow again.
I'm
You know,
100% with
His
you.
dad's 6'6",
Yeah.
right? So I mean, I played basketball with his father in high school.
Yeah.
Right. Freshman year, he played guard and I was the forward.
Yep.
Sophomore year, he was our center at 6'6". He grew 11 inches. Right. So I mean, Braden and a lot of baby. Braden is going to be a dog. Braden is going to hit in the middle of order for some college.
Mhm.
And it's going to be one of the best decisions they ever made.
Yeah.
Because the power is real and he can hit for average.
Oh yeah.
The hit tool is also real. He also doesn't swing at bad pitches. His selection is amazing. So Braden Trent is a guy who's had a massive offseason that I think is massively underrated
Mhm.
in the recruiting circles. I know it's starting to pick up now.
Yeah.
He's had some calls lately.
He's always been a middle of the order guy. So like, even though like he's getting a lot better at all of those things that make guys more recruitable, like the baseball side has always been there.
Yeah.
So
and
watching both come in.
defensively at first base, he's sensational.
Yeah.
He's as good around the bag as anyone we've ever had.
Yeah.
He's a sensational defensive first baseman. So yes, he doesn't run all that well, but I am really excited to see his 60 time after an offseason with Sam
Yeah.
at the scout day. But the defense will play because he's as good with the glove at first base as anyone I've ever been around, and I've been doing this for 20 years.
Yeah.
The other,
He's got the last thing I was to say about Trent was he's come in for a couple, college live at bats, and his like hitting presence is very well known.
Well-
Like he gets in there and you're like, oh man,
yeah,
he's got good
it's
hitting
different.
presence.
It's different. And like the other thing is right now he's where he's at on the mound, probably low to mid 80s. Now I've got college coaches telling me he's a potential two-way guy.
Yeah.
Right. There's 2 schools I'm talking to right now that are telling me he's a two-way guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we wouldn't have said Braden was a two-way guy a few years ago. Now last summer he pitched really well and won a lot of games for that
He's
team.
a baseball guy, man. He knows how to play baseball.
Yeah,
And
he's
he
a
pitched
baseball
really well
player.
for Miamisburg too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
True.
He's a baseball player, who goes out. And then the other guy who I think is massively underrated. We all talk about a lot of these names on a consistent basis. That guy's Brady Cannon.
Yeah. BC.
BC had a massive offseason. He's always been a lead on the mound,
Yes.
but the bat is coming. He's consistently starting to barrel up baseballs, right? He's always been a guy that would run off a 97. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then there would be some swing and miss, and there was a couple holes in his swing. That's changing. The holes are going away with Cannon. I expect his average to really skyrocket. I expect him to have a massive spring and summer at Northmont and with us. Brady Cannon is incredibly underrated.
Mhm.
Incredibly underrated. Now, when you go look at long term, this sophomore group, I mean, I don't want to single anybody out, right? There's a lot of them. There's 7, 8, 9 of them that have a real chance to play at a really, really high level.
Yeah.
That sophomore class is as deep as anybody we've ever had, maybe more. So I think P413 baseball is in a really good spot. I think the next 5 years we're going to continue to change as a program and grow.
Yeah.
I love where we are long term.
100%.
Absolutely. So we kind of already hit on the summer ball piece a little bit, but then we brought up our guys, from our summer team.
Mhm.
Tell me about so when we had Frankie on,
Yes.
you asked him about the state of summer baseball.
Correct.
I felt that there were some lingering opinions in your face. So I want you to tell me from your perspective, in your best words, the state of summer baseball.
Why do we have to have so much animosity in the summer game? I don't understand it.
I don't either.
Like, because when I coach high school baseball, I think it's fair to say, with Troy leaving the league, that Legacy's probably our biggest rival. I see Sean weekly. I would consider Sean a really close friend. Now, when we get on the field, Sean wants to whip me and I want to whip him.
I agree.
And that's okay. But why does there have to be so much animosity? Why does this program have to talk bad about this program? I don't understand it, right? Because it's never supposed to be about you, right? Our job is to give these players as many options as humanly possible to be successful. And it's that family's right to sit down at their kitchen table, right, and have a conversation about what's right for them. We have to understand that this is supposed to be select baseball. And we've gotten away from what select baseball is supposed to be. There should be a tryout, and you should have to make it, right? And we've gotten to a point now where every person around the corner has a team. And it brings
has been for a while.
yeah, and it brings down the level of all the baseball,
Yeah.
right? Because it dilutes the rosters. So I would like to see it to a point where, like, let's compete. Let's compete. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a Division III team or a Division II team or Division One. Whatever you want to do is fine. But if you're going to do it, then do right by the athlete and go all in on it.
100%. 100%.
But the guys that just want to coach the team so their kid can play shortstop, or the guy that just wants to coach the team because it's fun and it's kind of a hobby, and you're only there at practice and you're not accessible to the players all the time and you're not all in and you haven't really sat down and thought about what schedule is best for them. I think we have to get away from that. We need to be all in on the players. And lastly, obviously you clipped a reel of this. Stop trying to go 40-10. It doesn't do us any good, right? Find that schedule that's going to test yourself wherever that is. And maybe you have the best team in the state. And if you do have the best team in the state, cool. You should probably travel 5-6 times. Because showing up and beating a team 18-0 and winning tournaments every weekend is not going to be what's best for your players long term. You should probably go play in national events, right? And maybe you win those too, and you're the best team in the country, and that's awesome. I hope you are. Or maybe you face 92 and realize, okay, man, my guys need to see more of this because they are that good. But either way is fine. Find the level of talent that your team needs that's one step above them. So if you think of it this way, this is how I think of it in my head. Say we have 4 tiers of teams, right? If you think your talent is legitimately a 1, play 2. If you think your team is legitimately a 2, play 3. If you think your team is 3, play 4. If you really think you're a 4, then you need to start finding national events. You need to start going to Hoover and WWBA, and that should be your entire schedule. And now that's going to be tough on families, right? That's going to be tough on families. Like, our schedule is brutal on families. We travel 4 times a year, not counting the fall. In the fall, we travel every weekend. And why do we do that? Because we want to get in front of coaches and we want to play the best competition that we can find to give our kids the chance.
And in the fall, those freshmen are playing against juniors.
Seniors.
And
Yeah.
seniors.
Yes, they are. I mean, you look at our 15U team this year. If you get on Game Changer and you look at our 15U team that Coach Russo's coaching, and it was me, Coach Russo, and Mike Randolph in the fall coaching this team. And you go, man, they were 8-18 in the fall. Boy, they must suck. No, what you don't know is they played 26 games against 18-year-old teams. They didn't play one 15-year-old team. Not one.
No, I know. Yeah.
Right? They saw 85-90 as going into the freshman year. The whole fall. Right? So if you just look at the record, it doesn't, you don't understand the actual process.
No.
Because I have no idea what our Canes team went last year record-wise. I have no idea what Coach Miller's team's record was. at 17U. I have no idea what Coach Reese's record was at 17U. But I know there's 24 kids already committed, and there's 3 or 4 more that are going to be. Which is more important?
Right.
And for me, that's the only thing that matters. If you're a youth coach, your only focus should be this kid is going to play varsity baseball. If you're a high school coach, coaching summer ball, your only focus is this kid is going to play college baseball. If you're worried about anything other than those 2 things, find something else to do.
And I think that that's perfectly said because you're always there to get them to the next level.
That's it.
That's it. I mean, as far as you go, right? Like any kid that steps up into your program, there's always a goal, right? It's not, I want to hit this certain velo. It's not always just that. Sometimes it is that, but it's not just that. I also want to pitch for my varsity team this fall or this spring. And then, I mean, you even get with from the pitching to the hitting side with Pato, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, coach, I know that I'm a PO for you, but I would like to
Hit in high school.
contribute. Yeah.
And that's the other thing, like, you know what I mean? You have to understand that every kid, now this is a training side, not an organizational side, but every kid we work with has a different goal. We have one kid we're training right now. His entire goal is to make the high school team. And if he makes the JV team, he is thrilled. He has been working his tail off in here since August or September, right? And his entire goal is to make one of the high school teams. That's awesome.
Right.
Be self-aware and try to do what you can do. And that's a player perspective. Have your own goals, right? If you're a guy who your entire goal is to make the freshman team, don't compare yourself to Alec Halter. Don't compare yourself to Drake Sauber, who started as freshman on varsity. That's by the end of the, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
It's not the same. It's not the same thing.
It's not.
Figure out your path and go after your goal and be all locked in and be happy. This is the other thing. Be happy for everyone around you. Like, when I see a different organization place an athlete, I celebrate that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's another Dayton kid doing his
exactly right.
dream. Yeah.
It's another day. The reason P413 was open was not for our teams. The reason P413 opened is because we want to make Dayton baseball as good as it possibly can be. So if you're getting that somewhere else and Dayton baseball's going up, awesome. I'm gonna celebrate that at all times.
I look at it from a different aspect because I'm not a head coach. I'm not the guy in charge of that. So like for me, it's more so like, how do you help families that don't want to play college baseball but are pretty talented, so they end up being on those like higher level teams because of their talent. You know what I mean? And then they're like a 3-sport athlete at the 12U, 13U, but they're not ready to like
those are
commit.
Those are honestly the 3-sport athletes the hardest guy to
Yeah.
work with because they got basketball season going right now. You don't see them very often. That's one of the things I love about Grady Combs. Like, I remember I was joking around a couple weeks ago. He dropped 37 on Friday night, and he was here at 8 a.m. on Sunday morning.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, I think that it takes a special human to do that if you're going to be a multi-sport guy.
For sure.
So yeah, no, I mean, I think that's the incredible thing. How do guys continue to develop? Football, baseball players are easy.
Yeah.
When you're a basketball player or a wrestler, it's really hard to get better at baseball in the wintertime because you're so busy. So that's
No, but I really enjoyed
a really long discussion.
that conversation you guys started with Frank. It's definitely, you guys should add that to that last question. It's like one of those things. It's like, can do the whole pod about.
Yeah, no, I think I can add to that a little bit too. Is I mean, I got a kid on my 16U team now. I mean, I'm not going to go here and go on a tangent about a 16-year-old, but at the same time, he's already made it very clear. Coach Kai, I don't want to play baseball in college. I want to go to the military. Okay, but let me have your life for this time. You say you want to play baseball, right? Let me have a piece of you for just a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's learn these life lessons through baseball.
And that's the thing. Baseball represents life better than anything I can ever do because when you're at a job, you got to compete for your position. Use you as an example. You want more cage time? You got to do better. You know what I mean? Like, that's how this works at any level. Whatever job you are, you got to compete. Baseball teaches you how to do that early.
100%.
Competition, man.
So, Doug, you usually ask this question, but you're not in that chair right now, so I'm going to ask it. If there's anything that you can change about this wonderful game of ours, what would it be?
Well, other than the automated strike zone, because this guy gets enough advantages as is,
right?
So we can actually call a ball.
I like umpires that have big zones.
No, but the thing I would love to change in our game, and I would love to get back to, and I don't know how. I would like to get back to the super leagues. So when I started coaching the high school game back 2010, 2011, 2012, back in that area, 2009, 2008, right in, I think it was 08, 07, 08 was the first year I coached high school. in the summer. We used to play in Super League. So Sandlot with Mickey Hyder used to do a Mid America Super League. There was also another one, and they had Super Leagues. And what it was you would have 4 cities. So let's say you had, I think the first year I was in it, it was Lexington. No, it was Indianapolis, Lexington, and Columbus, and then Dayton. We were the 4 cities. So they picked 2 teams in each city that they thought were the 2 best programs, and they would have those would be the representatives. So you'd have what you would call a traveling partner, right? So one weekend you would go to Indianapolis, and they got Butler. So you would have all 8 of these teams that were handpicked with college prospects. And hey, we're going to Butler and UIndy or wherever, right? I think one year was UIndy, one year was Butler. And you played Friday night. So there was 8 teams. So you'd play like Friday at 2 or 12, 2, 4, and 6 or something. And then Saturday and Sunday you would play. And you would go there for 4 weekends, and parents would only have to pay 2 nights for hotels. You would say there was no stay to play. You would play Friday night, you would stay Friday night and Saturday night in this city. And you would go on 3 out-of-town trips that way. But you could tell every college coach in the region, hey, all 8 of these teams are going to be in this spot this weekend. It's one of the things Jeff and those guys do up with T3 so well with the NEO invite. We're going to have 24 elite teams, real invite only, not this fake, I can pay $70,000 to get in this tournament. So you would go to Indianapolis, and so then maybe next weekend was the Dayton weekend. So we would rent UD or Wright State or AIA or, you know what I mean, whatever.
Right.
And then all the teams would come there. And then you would tell all the Southwest Ohio schools, hey, all 8 of these teams are going to be here at this time. Here's the game schedule. There was no tournament. You weren't trying to win a championship. Oh, now the next weekend we're going to Columbus. I believe it was the Columbus Cobras, and I don't remember who the other team was. I apologize. But we would go up to Columbus. That was maybe Ohio Elite. That was before Bo Jackson, right? So we'd go up there, and you would play the same 8 teams, right? And you would do that. Oh, now then you would go to Lexington. So if you played a 9-week summer schedule with your high school team after high school ended, 4 of your weeks were locked into this Super League, right? And we would keep standings, and somebody would win, but then it's like a real league, right? So
And you get that league piece.
you would basically play every other week, right? And then back then, if you were in the league, you got an automatic bid to Sandlot's World Series. Back then, when you had to qualify, not when you could just pay to go, right? So if you had a 9-week schedule, you had 4 weekends booked. So you would basically play every other weekend, and then that gave you 5 weekends for tournaments. Well, what else did it do? It kept the cost down, because when we went to Indianapolis, it was those 2 teams' responsibility to rent the field. So you're getting 3 weekends where you're not paying for a field. All you're doing is paying for one umpire.
Yeah.
So it kept the cost down for families. When you go to Lexington, you're paying for one umpire. When you go to Columbus, you're paying for one umpire each game you play, all 4 games. So say you pay an umpire $80, you're getting that weekend for $320.
And then when you host, it's
Now, when you host, it's different. If you got to pay $4,000 to rent there, right? So your total all in on these 4 or 5 weekends is probably $5,000,
Yeah.
$4,000. Well, most of the tournaments we play in now that are good are 2,000, 2,300, 2,700, 1,800. So, and I don't think people realize the amount of, like, most of our teams are going to spend 12 to 13 grand just paying tournament fees this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if we can get that number down to do 4 weekends here, and then you do 4 weekends of tournaments, now we're at, 10 grand, 9 grand. You're saving $4,000 or $5,000 for families, which is a direct savings for each family of $300, right? $300 doesn't sound like a lot. It adds up because our families spend a lot of money. So I would love to somehow partner with somebody in Dayton, find the right 2 teams in 3 other cities, right? And get back to Super League play.
I like that.
Yeah, and maybe you don't even have to go as far because there's a lot of baseball in Cincinnati, Troy, and maybe it's a little shorter because there's a lot more baseball. But that could start something bigger.
No, I definitely think you
Potentially.
got something good there. That's about all the time we have today. Doug, I don't really have to thank you for being here because you're going to have to be here anyway. But no, I think that this was a great episode. I want to thank Juan for coming in and being our special
I
guest
appreciate it, guys.
host.
Thanks for the invite.
To see more stuff like this, make sure you follow us on Apple, Spotify. Sorry.
It's cold.
To see more stuff like this, make sure you follow us on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. And to never miss a notification from us, follow us on social media at Facebook, on Instagram, and also Twitter. All right, boys.
Right.
It's America's favorite pastime. Come on, let's have a good time. Slinging seeds. Yeah, we're just slinging seeds.